Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you can find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This will be a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe now. Also follow us on Instagram at the Oasis Podcast. That's TheOasis Podcast. Welcome everyone to the Oasis Podcast. And I'm joined today with my lovely guest.
Hey boo.
Miss Ayanna.
Hey. Yes.
Okay, out here slaying.
Cheers to the Oasis
Slaying out here. Okay.
Podcast.
I wasn't ready. But today we will be talking about a topic. By the time you guys see this recording and hear this episode, I would have already dropped my episode about my fertility journey. And Miss Ayanna and I have been talking about tons of things. However, fertility has been one of them. And I felt you were a great person to have this conversation with because you've had your experiences, with fertility and going into the journey that you decided to go on, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I guess really briefly, a brief little overview of what you've experienced, and I can kind of touch on kind of what I've been going through.
Absolutely. So this is a very personal conversation. I think any woman, who hopes to be a parent, hopes to be a mother, whether they have great success and ease with fertility or whether there are challenges, it's just a very personal topic. So for me, I've always wanted to be a mom. I will be a mother, and fertility hasn't been easy for me. I don't have any biological children, and I've experienced infertility and miscarriages, and so it's been a road. It's been a test of faith and a test of patience and a test of will. But I know that God is going to bless me in His divine timing and in His plan. So I'm glad to talk about this today and share my story.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. This is a sensitive topic. And
yeah.
And I wonder why exactly that is for other people.
Why it's so taboo
to
talk about fertility.
Why that is. And I was actually thinking about this earlier. Is it because fertility is linked with sex and people are uncomfortable talking about sex? Or is it because of kind of the norms or these ideals that society throws out there about you being a woman and you're supposed to be your capacity or what you're supposed to do? This is what you were put on this earth to do. So I don't know which one of it is. I know for me it's not about the sex part because I don't mind talking about sex. And so I guess for me it's not uncomfortable exactly. It's just that I guess for me why the conversation hasn't happened with other people is it's just never brought up.
Right. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's the taboo of sex. And then I think it's definitely what society places on women and places on their bodies and the way that society polices women. You should be able to, if something is wrong with you, you're broken, you're not a woman if you don't do X, Y, and Z. So they make it really extremely taboo to just talk about it. Other women don't talk about it with other women. It's kind of like a silent battle we go through until we find a village or people that we can be that vulnerable with. It's very sensitive. It's a very sensitive topic. I think even medical professionals don't really go there and talk about it unless you're going specifically for infertility issues. Your primary care doctor's not going to talk about it.
That's true. No, you're absolutely, because I'm thinking about that. I have a black woman, PCP, I love her. Been with her for years. And I was the one who brought up the conversation. It was never like, hey, have you thought about...
At a certain age, right, you should be
nothing. I brought it up, and she was like, oh, okay, sure, we can run such and such. And it's like, why is this not a conversation that's brought up when you know your patient is of childbearing years? But maybe getting up there because as you do get older, it gets more difficult.
Yes,
so maybe it's just one of those... Are you thinking about having children? Right. And then from there, the conversation can be guided one way or the other.
They don't even bring it up.
They do not bring it up.
Even in the medical field. So it's like this, it's so taboo. Society tells you that you should be doing this by this time. You should have this by that time. And this and that, and sets all these expectations on you. And then your own family, like that generational curse about not talking about this stuff. Because I don't even know, like, I'm a daughter of a mother and a mother and a mother of a mother and a mother, and I don't know their struggles with fertility. I don't know what they went through to have the children that they have. It's just not talked about.
That's very true. Yeah, you know what? Now that you just said that, it makes me go, I think I'm gonna have a conversation with my mother. But you're absolutely right. It's not talked about. It's always like, you need to have kids. At least in my family. You know? It's, oh, you gotta have kids. You gotta leave
what
something
you waiting on.
What you waiting for. That's it. But it's never to talk about, have you tried?
Right.
What's going on with you reproductively? Yeah, that's really not a conversation.
Yeah.
And I think,
isn't that crazy? We don't talk about our vaginas with our mothers. Isn't that crazy? Like, come on, like
we came out of our vagina.
The women we came from, we don't even have that conversation. Yeah.
And I think it makes, and this is why I think it's not brought up, at least from me and my experience, only time fertility was brought up is when the woman that I was speaking to had an issue. Like, so was like a very, it was a thing they couldn't hide, if that makes sense. So I know people who've been pregnant and they lose the child in long term, right? And so that's a conversation that's like, whoa, because everyone saw that you were pregnant and then there was no baby, right? And so there's like, that's not a conversation.
A conversation.
Yeah, it's brought up. Even miscarriages, depending on what stage, some people don't even talk about it, and so people suffer silently. And I think, to me, as a woman, so we can talk as a woman, we know that, you know, studies have shown, and all the statistics show, the more educated you are, right, the less likely that you are to have children, essentially, is what they say.
That's what they say.
And for black women, right, like, even for us, we are probably one of the highest educated groups of women.
Shout out to black women.
Okay, all right, get it? And so that right there, if you're connecting the dots based on what statistics are saying, that means if we're taking longer to get our lives together, to get our education together, to get our careers together, and the coin, don't forget the bag. So that means, essentially, we're having children later
in life. Absolutely.
But then why the conversation is not occurring? Because
it shouldn't be taboo. It shouldn't.
Studies show you pretty much fertility starts to decline. It starts to decline in your late 20s, but drastically after 35. Yes. And a lot of us are getting it together about that stage, right?
I'm 2 years away. I'm closer to 35 than I'm
closer to 35 than you are. So, and like by the time we hit that age is when we're like, all right,
I'm ready. Now I'm ready.
I'm feeling kind of good. But then, if you're now going into the doctor, you're now trying to try. More than likely, we're not even going to the doctor. We're just trying to find a partner to try. And so we're going to be trying. Years are going to roll down. Now we're going to be touching 40. And that's when we probably show
really
up to
at
the doctor.
High risk,
And that's when the problems occur. That's when they're like, oh, your egg reserves. Oh, your uterus is this. And now you're spending at least 6 months, a year trying to fix the things to see if you can even.
Instead
and it's
of
like
family planning in your mid-20s.
Why is that not a part? Even in your gynecological visits.
It's not a part of it.
They don't even have
It's not a part of it. In my 20s, nobody ever asked me when I went to the OBGYN, are you starting a family? They would ask, you know, about your sexual history and partners and all of that, and but nobody asked, are you, you know, starting a family? Are you planning to start a family? You're at this age, you're at this stage. This is when you should be thinking about it. Never a conversation. Never.
Let me tell you the conversation I had when I went to a GYN. It was this white doctor. It was recommended to me. I was GYN shopping rather. And I was at this point maybe mid-20s.
Okay.
I already obtained I had my master's at this point, so I was educated, working, figuring it out. And this white male doctor, so he asked me, I was in a relationship at the time. I was probably in a relationship about two years or so. And so he's like, oh, you know, are you guys family planning? Like, pretty much, his line of question was like using protection and such. I'm like, no, I've been with my partner, we've been tested, this is what we do, etc. And he was like, oh, you should wait till you're married. Like, you shouldn't do it. Girl!
No, like I asked you that. Like I asked you what you.
I didn't ask your opinion. That was one. Two is I'm fully capable, and I have the knowledge. I have the education. I used to teach reproductive health. I have all this knowledge, so I understand what comes into it. And for him, and it's not like I'm some young kid. And even still, you should not. Who are you?
Shouldn't impose
to say that to somebody. And that's what he said to me. That was the first and last time I seen him. But that was the only conversation when I went to GYN about family planning. You know what I mean? Unless I went into the visit saying, "Hey,
this is what I
this is what I'm thinking. Should I be concerned?"
That's a mouthful about how oppressive the medical field is, and I'm preaching to the choir because black folks know how oppressive the medical field is, but me being black, me being woman, me being of a certain size and stature in my body, fat, the medical field never greeted me with care and never greeted me with warmth. Every time I showed up, whatever ailment, whatever illness I felt, whatever, if I had a common cold, it was, you too fat, you need to lose weight so you don't get a cold. I'm like, oh yeah, girl, oh yeah, like that. That's off topic, but yeah, the medical field has been,
talk about that. Not in this episode.
Has been incredibly oppressive. And then when it comes to reproduction, it was the same thing. I was with an ex of mine, my last ex. We were together for almost 7 years, and he had a child. I had no children, and I wanted to have a child, and we were not using protection. We were doing what we was doing, and we weren't getting pregnant. And so they say if somebody is trying and actively not using protection, and after a year you don't get pregnant, then there is some fertility issues there. And we then at one point got pregnant. This was in 2013, around the end of March, beginning of April, got pregnant, peed on the stick. Oh, I'm pregnant. So then it was all the nerves and stuff, and like early pregnancy. First of all, once you know you're pregnant, when you pee on the stick and it say, yes, girl, them symptoms come fast and furious, child.
Mind over matter.
What? It's all in the mind.
Yeah.
Child, I couldn't stay awake. I was like falling asleep on people on the train. I was like drooling on myself. My titties hurt. The symptoms came fast and furious. But, it was excitement. It was nerves. I was about 2013. I may have been like 25 around then. And we lived together, and I was like, this is what I want. I want to be a mother. So, okay, this is what's happening. And then I had a miscarriage May 5th of that year, Cinco de Mayo. And the process, at the time I was in between jobs, just starting a job, and my insurance had not yet kicked in. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how oppressive the healthcare system is for the uninsured.
That was just something I just try to praise to because praise to God about, because not having insurance, can you imagine going through this process?
I can.
That is a blessing to have it. Just to have it.
Yeah, just
whatever it is. I don't
care.
They
treat you differently.
If it's Medicaid, whatever
they treat you differently if you're uninsured.
Can we talk about that?
So I went downtown. Anybody from Brooklyn knows Willoughby. Downtown to 81 Willoughby, the chop shop. Everybody know Planned Parenthood. To pay out of pocket for some services because I didn't yet have insurance with the new job that I was getting. And when I tell you just the treatment of going into that clinic, they treated me like shit. When you're early in the pregnancy, they take blood work and they're testing some hormones to see that your hormones are rapidly increasing, and my hormones were not increasing. And they were like, well, it could be a miscarriage, it could be ectopic pregnancy, it could be something else, but you got to pay us up front $190 for this test. We're not going to do nothing until you give us the cash. You got cash on you right now. Like, that's how this lady was talking to me. I'm there with tears in my eyes, like, I just really want to know what's going on with my body and my baby. Like, you'll get your money. Like, here's my bank card, sis. Like, you'll get your bread, but do you have any sensitivity to somebody that doesn't know what's happening to their body and to their child? And I sat in Brooklyn Hospital for about 12 hours and waited in the emergency room to see what was going on. Just make you sit there and wait. I went back to the chop shop, paid them the $190, did the test, and they were like, well, we're going to send you home. You got to wait for the results and come back when we have the results. And this was over the span of like 4 days that I was like threatening a miscarriage. It was a threatening of a miscarriage. And then Sunday, May 5th, I woke up, I had cramps, I got in the shower, there was blood, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the hospital. And I went to Methodist, and that is where I actually had my miscarriage. And that experience was traumatic as hell, sitting in the hospital, going through that by myself. Yeah, we're gonna talk.
Okay, because I'm about to.
We're gonna. I'll tell all my tea. It's my tea. I spill it. I'll pour it. So my partner was a jerk, not very sensitive, and in his own thing and in his own bag. And he drove me. I woke him up that Sunday, tapped him. Hey, I need to go to the emergency room. And we were beefing. We weren't even speaking then. We were fighting about something else. And so he got up with an attitude and was like, all right, fine, let me take you. Got in my mother's truck, went to a Methodist, and we get to the door of the emergency room. And he's like, do you want me to come in with you?
What you think?
Right. Which I thought I said. So I looked. I put my shades on. I said, you do what you got to do. And I got out the car and I just went to the emergency room because I had no time to deal with his attitude and whatever my body was going through. And I sat in the emergency room by myself for quite a bit of time, quite a bit of hours. And at first I was in the waiting area of the emergency room, and they took you back to triage, and then they put me in a hallway in a chair, not in the bed, just sitting in a chair, and I'm actively bleeding on myself, actively releasing my child. And, you know, I'm sitting there. Of course, I'm emotional. Anybody who's ever experienced miscarriage, some people just go through it. It's quick. Some people, it goes through it, and it's a very long time. I'm sitting there boohooing, crying. People are passing by me as if I'm invisible. Nobody stops and says, are you okay? What do you need? Do you need a tissue? Do you need a hug? Nobody said anything to me while I sat in the waiting area bleeding. And then there were lots of exams because they had to give me an ultrasound, a sonogram, blood work, and make sure that I passed everything and that everything took its course. And I can just tell any woman knows how invasive sonograms are. Now imagine a sonogram in the middle of a miscarriage. So it was a mess. There was blood everywhere. I'm apologizing to the sonogram tech. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm getting blood on your floor. And he's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're having a miscarriage, lady. You're going to bleed. And it was kind of out of body. It was out of body, out of mind. I was detached from the experience because it was traumatic. Yeah. And then they gave me my discharge papers and sent me home. And that was it. And then I left my child, and I left that in that space.
Woo, my heart.
And went home. And had to, like, you know, pick up the pieces and deal with all of the letdown. The plans that you make in your mind. I don't know for anybody else, but when you pee on that stick and it's a yes, you immediately go into planning a life for this child, planning your life around becoming a parent, and then that just is snatched away.
Right.
So that was my story. That's my testimony of my miscarriage, and it was hellish to get through, hellish to go through, hellish to get through.
Absolutely. I lied. I had said that I didn't have kind of questions. I just remember this morning.
That's cool.
Last night that I had
got some questions.
So for that experience, that part of your experience, what were things you felt you needed that you didn't get?
Oh goodness, support. Number one, I needed support. I needed to go to counseling. I did not. I needed family support. I didn't have it. I needed a partner support. The person who I made this child with was not a support. Didn't grieve with me. I won't say he didn't grieve on his own. I won't say that of him, but he didn't grieve with me. It wasn't a collective grief. And I needed somebody to just say, are you okay? I kind of just went on with life, and I wasn't okay. I was suicidal. I was depressed. I was in a very dark space. I wasn't happy.
A lot of hormones and stuff.
Yeah,
like, and people probably didn't tell you about that part.
Nobody. There was no aftercare. There was no after checkup. I don't even think I went to a regular OBGYN after the miscarriage. I literally just went on with life. Went on to work. Went on trips. Went traveling. We actually had me and my homegirls for quite some time went to Cancun every May. And so we had a trip planned that May, 2 weeks before my miscarriage. So I miscarried on the 5th, and we were leaving actually on my birthday, the 22nd. So 3 weeks. And I went to Mexico because when I paid all my money to go to Mexico, and it was kind of like, put that little piece of your hurt in a box and then just be okay for your girls. Be okay for this trip. Be okay for this situation. You don't want to destroy anybody else's vacation. You don't want to destroy anybody else's time. So your misery, you'll put it in a box. You'll deal with that when you're by yourself. And so it was an incredibly
lonely testimony of so many of us.
Oh yeah, suffering in darkness, suffering in the shadows, suffering in the closet, suffering behind closed doors, crying on your pillow. My pillow is my best friend because it knows all my tears.
All of it.
But you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to.
Right.
You know, I had too many women in my circle. I had too many mothers in my circle. I had too many sisters in my circle to had gone through that and felt alone. And not to say that there weren't people in my village that, you know, came around me and offered themselves to me. I won't say that everybody was just like, oh, well, Ayanna had a miscarriage, just get over it. That didn't happen. But I felt very alone, very depressed, suicidal, blamed God, resentful at God. And then for a long time, like, what's wrong with me? Beating myself up. I can't give this man that whole societal
woman.
Right, I can't give this man a child. He wants a child. I can't do what a woman is supposed to do. And it was very, very difficult to dig myself out of that hole and out of that space. It was very hard.
Well, child.
I know, right? Heavy. Let me take a sip.
It's heavy, but I think it's necessary. Like, we have to talk about this because I'm certain there's going to be people who hear this. It can be men and women, right? Because men are also part of a fertility journey too.
Absolutely.
Right? And so they can have partners who they are trying to create life with, and
right. And it be a struggle.
And it be a struggle with themselves or
right.
with their partner.
Right.
And not knowing, maybe that maybe he doesn't know what to say to his partner. Mm-hmm. Maybe he doesn't know how she's feeling because she doesn't want to talk about it.
Right.
But I think to hear this, to know what someone who's experienced is feeling I think it might be even a great way to start a conversation. Like, hey, I heard this podcast.
Right, babe.
I heard this
Let's
lady
talk about
say
this.
This.
Right.
Is this how you felt? Or, I don't want you to feel like this. So tell me what it is that I can do to be supportive. And as women, just being there for each other instead of saying, oh, you had a miscarriage. All right, girl. All right. Well,
right. Like, you don't want to touch that. Right.
Okay. And then, like, talk about it. Feel through it. Right. And then so for me, I've started my fertility journey again. I'm talking about that during this season of the podcast. And for me, it's been, you talked about the part of it being lonely and sad, mm-hmm. right? Well, I ain't got a partner right now, so I think that's part of it. It's all right, though.
It's all right. They coming.
Okay, can we
see you, soulmate? Okay. We see you.
I see you.
I'm ready.
But I think the loneliness piece of it, or sadness for me that came about, mm-hmm. is having to navigate it by myself.
Yeah, alone. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
Even if it's not with the partner piece, but just me feeling like I couldn't tell a particular, like, say, hey, I'm about to go do this, that couldn't come with me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the part that kind of made me sad. And of course, there's that piece of like, this would have been nice to have, even though it's COVID time, so your partner couldn't come to the office with you anyway. Right. But stay right there. I'll wait for you.
Wait in the car. Wait in the car, boo.
Knowing that
moral support. Yeah.
But in all honesty, the people that I have been with, let me rephrase that. People I've been with that I wanted to have children with, because
not everybody. Right. Use discernment.
Which even still is not gonna make it any better when I say what I'm gonna say next. I probably would not have felt supported with them.
That's key.
That would have made me feel even sadder. So, like, that to me was like, you know what? Maybe it is better I go through this by myself. I can build whatever. Not strength, because I always want to be strong. Fuck that. Not necessarily build the strength, but just to kind of go through this journey and be able to be vulnerable with myself in this way. And maybe it's a good thing, and I don't question what happens in my life and how it happens anymore. It's like, all right, this is what it's supposed to be. Got it, But I think this journey was supposed to help build me in a way.
Yeah.
Because I spent so much time. I only thought about my fertility though when I was with somebody
attached to a partner.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the first time in my life.
That's something that
I'm taking the key steps to think about my fertility.
Because it's yours, right? That was something that I had to do too, because I used to say it all the time. I used to, you got the aunties, you got the mamas, the godmamas, the elders. when you gonna have a kid? I would hear it all the time. Ayanna, you got all your other stuff together. You got your degrees. You got your place. Okay. When are you having a kid? And I'd be like, my go-to default answer would be like, well, I need to find a man. I need to find a partner first. these niggas out, excuse me. That would be my answer. And then one day I had to sit with myself and say, why do I attach my motherhood to a man? That divine blessing of motherhood is mine and mine alone to own. Mm-hmm. And take it into my hands and take it into control for me to co-create with God. Like, yes, you need sperm to have a baby. Somewhere along the line there needs to be some sperm happening with an egg. That's just how babies are made. I understand that. So I don't want to remove a man from the process. I understand that there needs to be a yin and a yang in the process. However, taking ownership of my motherhood is mine and mine alone to sit in. And when I align with the person I'm supposed to align with and we're supposed to have children, it's going to be out of my control anyway. I'm not going to be able to dictate when it happens and how it happens. It's going to happen regardless of whether I'm ready or not. But readying myself for parenthood and for motherhood, it was a self-act because I realized that what I was wanting back in the day when I was with my last partner, I wanted to, I was stupid. I had stupid girl syndrome. That's what I call it, SGS, stupid girl syndrome.
Girl, I had it too.
Right.
Okay.
Stupid girl syndrome, I'm going to coin that. I'm going to trademark that. But SGS, stupid girl syndrome, and stupid guy syndrome, because guys can have it too, is where you want to fill the space with something to make it what it isn't. Ooh. And I was like, if I make him a father again, then this will be a forever thing. He'll wake up, he'll grow up, he'll get it together. We'll get it together. Some type of and hell no, I would have just had a headache of a baby father. That's what I would have had. I would have had a beautiful child out of it, but a headache of a baby father.
Okay.
And it wasn't time. And every time that God has spared me from my own free will, because it was a blessing in disguise. My miscarriage in that situation was a blessing in disguise. I know it now. I didn't feel it then. Mm-hmm. But every time God says no to something, He knows your ass ain't ready. This ain't what you need to be doing. Okay. And I blamed God for so long. I would see, I was happy for the people in my life who were having children. I was happy for my friends and family who were extending their family. But there was always that resentment. Yeah, girl. Every baby shower I went to, every baby shower I got, my best friend, my god baby is 6. She just had her birthday a couple of weeks ago, like last week, 2 weeks ago. Almost, and helped plan the baby shower when my best friend was pregnant. Was there rubbing. I did the process where I went to the hospital with her when she found out the sex. It was me, my best friend, and her husband. The three of us were there. Did the baby shower. Was there when the baby. I wasn't there when the baby came out, but I was there the next morning and held the baby, and it was joy that we had this new life. But there was always that residual resentment, not resentment at my friend and resentment at my god baby, but resentment at God. Like, where's mine? Yeah. When's my time? Yeah. And I realized, like, God was like, you fool, I'm trying to protect you, girl. Okay. You asking for a whole world of trouble, and I'm trying to spare your dumb ass. That's how my God talk. I don't know about your God, but my God be cussing at me. He was like, I'm trying to spare you, and you asking for something that you just don't need right now. Let me wait on me, because I'll blow your mind. And so when I got to that point in that realization, I stopped yearning for it in the same way. Do I yearn to be a mother? Yes. Do I want to be a mother? Yes. Do I want to biologically have children? Yes. But the yearning is different. Yeah. Now I'm waiting on God. I'm like, God, ready me. Yes. If I'm not ready yet, ready me. What do I need to do to be ready? And that's outside of a partner. Like, when the partner comes, it's on the popping. I know what to do after that point. Yeah. When he get here, I know what to do after that point. I know how to make a baby. I know how to do that. Okay. But before then, am I ready? Am I emotionally ready? Am I mentally ready? I used to say things like, if I get pregnant again, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to let anybody know. And that was residual trauma from having a miscarriage. And from the very few people that knew about my pregnancy then, feeling like I let them down because I had a miscarriage. So I was like, I'm not going to tell nobody I'm pregnant. I'm not going to tell nobody I'm pregnant. I'm going to just hide the pregnant. I'm like,
that's like victim blaming.
Right. But that's listen, and I know that there are women out here whose testimony is that you're so afraid.
Wow.
You've lost a child before that you can't really revel in the joy of motherhood because you're scared. You're scared it's going to happen again. You're afraid you're going to lose this one. And now I'm not going to tell nobody till I get past this point. And then I'll make it past that point. I've known women who have gone to 8 months and had a stillborn or lost their baby.
Yeah.
And so pregnancy is a very scary, risky time. Period. For people who have healthy babies and healthy pregnancies, it is a nerve-wracking time.
Yeah.
But for women who have struggled with fertility, it's that and then some. Because you always feel like you don't have enough, and you always feel like it's you. And I went to get fertility testing with my ex after the miscarriage. Like a year or two after that, I was like, we'll try again, but this time we'll go and we'll get tested. I went. They looked at the egg follicles. They looked all up and through. It was a very invasive process.
I'm there, child.
And I got back clean bill of health. Yeah. They were like, your reproductive organs are good. Your eggs is there. You popping, sis.
That was God.
You straight.
That was God.
And I was like, oh, okay. But wait. Men, this is a message for men. Do not think that you cannot have fertility issues.
I'm going to lean in.
Okay. I'm going to talk to my brothers right now. Because I had a partner who had a child. He had about his child was around 8 around that time, 7 or 8.
To that, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
And his lifestyle was not the healthiest.
Mm-hmm.
Smoked. I smoked. We didn't eat the healthiest. He drank. Drug use, cigarette smoke. And he's a little bit older than me. He's 4 years older than me. So if I was like 25 at the time, he was around 29, almost 30. And I went, got my fertility test, got the whole workup, and it was a clean bill. You look good.
I already had a baby, right? So
right. He wouldn't get tested. I already have a kid. I got a kid. I know I can have a kid. Look, I got proof. I got walking, living, breathing proof that I can have a kid. So it can't be me. And I was like, so then you're blaming me.
Correct.
So then I'm the problem.
Correct.
Because it takes 2 people
to have
it takes an egg and the sperm to make a healthy baby. And so I got my eggs tested. I got my eggs cracked and scrambled and looked through. And he would not go and do the sperm test. He would not go and do the test. And it was his pride. It was his pride and his ego. Because how dare it be me? How dare I have the fertility issue? And that is a problem. That's a problem. Infertility that the men don't think it could be them. And nobody's an issue. Nobody's the problem. It's you guys are having difficulty creating life the natural way.
Yes.
And there are things that can happen with medicine that can support you. But you got to move your ego and your pride out the way, brothers. Get tested.
Auntie.
Put the sperm in the cup. Get tested. Figure it out.
And
it might be you.
And I'm not even, to add on to that, I'm not even going to lie to you, even though I've never taken a step to do fertility testing, because I ain't going to lie, I was afraid, right? I dealt with people, and there was one partner in particular who had children already. And me thinking we were together for quite some time, 4+ years, and I'm thinking, I ain't getting pregnant now.
Right.
It must be me.
Right.
Like something must be going on with me. And recently, and that was just a mindset, right? Like, oh, if the person already has a child, it can't be that. Clearly they did it at some point.
It's not true.
It's not true. Now, recently I've been listening to this podcast called You Had Me at Black. But then they have this combo that they're doing with this other podcast, I think, called Natal.
Okay.
And so it's strictly about black family, black stories about dating life and pregnancy and the things we endure and go through. And I learned on that episode they have doctors and stuff come on saying that it is a myth to think that just because that you had children before that you can't be infertile now.
Right.
And they said that depending, for males and females, depending on how much time has lapsed, depending on your lifestyle, depending on genetics, there's so many things that go that you could have been fertile at that point, but now you are not as fertile as you were before. The viability of your sperm, the health of your egg, whatever
activity, all that lifestyle.
And I was just like, I knew this in my spirit when I was with this person, but how could I prove it?
Internalized
I internalized it thinking it was me because this person had a child before, and I've never had a confirmed pregnancy. I'm gonna say a confirmed pregnancy.
Got you.
So I was thinking, yeah, it was me. But after I heard it, I was just like, oh my gosh. And honestly, I this morning I actually reviewed my reproductive testing. You know, everything's electronic now, and everything is normal.
See?
Normal.
See?
So it wasn't me. Now, I do, like I said, I believe in God, because ain't nobody tell me nothing different.
Amen.
And I understand the power of spirit, and I believe
Lord.
in protection.
Yes, God.
I was being protected.
All the time.
It was not
Through
supposed
and
to
through.
happen with near one
They
of
blocked it. Then the spiritual guides and ancestors was like, we block it, we bind it, we throw it away. Yeah, it's not supposed to happen.
one of them.
Yep.
Okay, especially this particular one.
All my exes tried to get me pregnant, Chad. All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
And in this especially this particular case, my body was rejecting him in every single way.
Oh, so
no,
you're right.
This is no lie. I literally, a lot of people probably haven't heard of this, probably don't think about it or don't think it's a real thing. I literally was allergic to his semen.
Oh yeah, it's real.
I actually had to go to
Dudes can throw off that pH.
I was like quote unquote studied, like it was like a real thing. It's not pH. I was allergic. My throat would start getting itchy. I would get sweat. Like it was.
And she was still 4 years. You see how long it took for you? Girl, bye.
What was the term? Was it SGS?
SGS, Stupid Girl Syndrome.
Okay.
Child.
And so this particular, my body was completely rejecting this person.
Wow. And you went through,
and this is the one I really wanted to have.
You craved to have this baby. You craved. Now imagine if God didn't block it. Imagine what you would have been going through. That's what I say to myself.
Every day, I'd be like, thank you so much.
Yeah. Because I'm telling you, I had exes like asking me like, are you doing something behind my back? Are you taking birth control behind my back? Like actively trying to get me knocked up, and I was like, nah, like I'm catching this. You shooting up the club? It just ain't happening. But nah, and it was God. God blocked it. God protects babies and fools, and I damn sure ain't no baby, so I must have been there.
I was a fool.
Okay, it's the truth. But yes, it's literally it's a miracle. It's a gift. It's science all wrapped into one. And I think media and I think society has us to believe that you lay down with somebody and boom, boom.
And it's actually very difficult. And the podcast I would listen to, I've listened to several, but the podcast I listened to said it's actually very hard to get pregnant.
It's a window. It's an ovulation window. It's a very 3 to 5 days in the month, honey.
Right. The
sperm,
the sperm gotta be right.
The
vagina gotta be right. And like everything.
Your discharge has to be a certain child. We're gonna get the science behind making a baby. You know, so people think that it is just lay down with somebody and you get pregnant, and that's just not it. Really Thank goodness, and God bless those who have the ability to quickly and successfully conceive children. Thank God for that, because it is not as easy as you think, and it's a struggle. But the thing is, we don't have these conversations, and it's generational. I did not know until my miscarriage that my mother, before she got pregnant with me, and my mother had me at 41. So my mother, I was the baby. I'm the last child. I was the ooh, you did it again, child.
She had that from my mom too, but she had me at 33. So can you imagine?
Right.
At 33, they thought that. Ooh,
now I'm 33 now. You old at 33. Thank you.
So y'all imagine the grief my mother giving me.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So Ann had me very late. My father was 52. My mother was 41. And before she had me, before she conceived me, she was already pregnant. 8 months pregnant and had lost the child. Never knew that. Wow. Never knew that. Never heard it. Never talked about it. My mother has never shared that with me. And I was sitting in my womanhood, experiencing my loss, and the way I found out and the way my mother told me wasn't like oh honey, sit with me, let me talk to you, because I hadn't been there. It was like, girl, you be alright, get over it, because it is what it is. That was my mother's pep talk to her child. And then she told me what she had experienced. Didn't go into detail, but told me, yeah, God, I lost the baby at 8 months, and then I had you, it'll be fine, you'll be fine, and then just moved on. And that trauma, the trauma of not being cradled by your mother.
Yeah, that's what you needed to do.
Right, and held in your womanhood. Had me I was resentful, I was angry, I was sour, I was, distraught, because I was like, nobody's holding me in this pain, and I feel like I gotta hold it myself, and I didn't want to hold it. I felt like it was unfair that I had to hold all of this hurt and all of this pain by myself. And, you know, I had to lean on God because that was it. That was all I had in the moment.
Wow. Yeah.
It's real.
Honestly, when I had my pregnancy scare, which again, many people didn't know about, and honestly, speaking to the reproductive endocrinologist, the first time I met with her, she was like, "Oh, that probably was a chemical pregnancy." But I was, at the time, I was young. I was like 19, 20, but I was about 19. I was so afraid. That should have been a moment, though, you should be able to go to and talk to your mother or somebody. But I was so afraid, and I literally internalized it. And even afterwards, even though I was too afraid to go get a test to confirm it. But I know what was happening to my body didn't feel right. Like, it was different than what I've ever experienced. I've been having my cycle for years, and this didn't feel regular, you know? But I was just too scared. And it's sad to be in that space and feel like the women that you're supposed to lean on, that has the knowledge, that has the experience, that you cannot go to. And I know, growing up, I knew my mother, she had lost 2 children. I never heard my mother talk about it. She's never talked about it. And one was she birthed and had for, I think, a year and a half or so, and then lost that child. And one she lost when she was pregnant. So it's like, why is it that we don't talk about? Like, why we having now? I'm a press. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, that's the responsibility. Deeper than it's a responsibility. Yeah. Like, and if there are any elders listening to this, older grandmothers, aunties, older women that are listening to this, it is the responsibility. Like, I'm nobody's grandmother right now. I'm somebody's aunt. I have an 18-year-old niece. I have a 25-year-old niece. If and when they are ready to have a conversation, I'm going to tell them the real, because it's my responsibility. Right. It's we done been there. I done walked through that door. I done walked through that path. I've experienced it. I don't want them to feel alone. It's my responsibility to wrap my hands around them and to give them what I have experienced. And I looked towards some elders, and I was like, where y'all at? Where y'all at? Yeah. You know, and it felt like a very lonely place to be.
And even now, not being able to, I'm assuming, again, making assumptions, I haven't had the conversation, but assuming that my mother didn't have any fertility issues, but even I don't feel like I can go to her and be like, "Oh, Mom, hey, I did this testing, I did this." I feel like her response is going to be, "Why do you need to do that? Right. You just need to find a man
and have a baby."
And it's like, sis, it's not exactly how it works.
Stop that. Right, stop that.
And it's not even, but also I don't think she would understand the fact that this is preventive or just to, like, precautionary. Right. Because in all honesty, I don't know if I have an issue, but I've been made to feel like I was the one that had an issue.
Like you were the problem. Because society made you feel like that. Partners made you feel like that. Right.
When in actuality, it's like, I could be perfectly fine, and divine intervention just was like, not this one, not that one.
And we see it happen all the time. We see women
all the time.
We see women with a man 10 years, ain't got no kids. She meet a dude, and then 6 months later she break big belly pregnant. You know what I'm saying? It happens all the time.
I know people that have happened to.
Me too. So, but society makes us believe that it's you. You're not the problem. You're not the problem. And even if you do have fertility issues, you are not the problem. Right. Bodies work differently. You know, and some people need support to make things happen. Some people need interventions to make things happen. That does not make you less of a woman.
Okay.
It does not make you less of a man. It does not make you less of a person. It does not make you less of a parent. Like, you just need a different level of support. That's it. We have to take the taboo-ness out of making a baby. Exactly. And it's a big business. Guilt, they sell you on that guilt, because making a baby is a big business. We're gonna talk about that.
It is, though.
It's dollars and cents. Yeah. So the medical field makes you feel guilty, makes you feel all these things, because it's a big business.
And think about it. I mean, it's the same, comparison that we sometimes take with, like, mental health and your physical health, right? You have a broken bone, you go to the doctor, you get it fixed, right? No one's telling you, "Oh, suck it up," right? Get over it. When it's your mental health, it depending on what it is, depression or whatever, they tell you, "Oh, just pray it out. Anxiety. It's okay. Right. You'll be fine." And it's the same thing, I think, for me, when you're thinking about your reproductive health. Like, let's say you have a physical condition or a medical condition, right? Let's say it could be, you're diabetic or whatever the case is. No one's like, "Oh, you're less than a person because you ain't got insulin or you can't make insulin." No one's doing that. So why would we be made to feel that, oh, if your reproductive system doesn't work, how quote unquote everyone else does, and again, everyone else's don't work the same, but you're made to feel like it does, that you're less of because of it.
Stop policing women's vaginas.
Oh.
Alright, can I just, that's a PSA. Stop policing. Stop telling women what to do
uterus.
with their uterus. You want to, listen, you want to have an abortion, that's your uterus.
That's
you want to never have a child, because that's your business. You want to have 5 children and be on public assistance, that's also your business. Stop telling women what to do with their bodies.
Right.
It's not your vagina, not your choice. Never your choice. What a woman wants to do with her own reproductive organs. That's my soapbox. My soapbox.
Can I just tack on to that? Women don't have kids by themselves. Let's just.
Hello.
So why are we policing the woman?
Police the penis.
Okay.
Hello. Tell them to keep their penis in their pants. Tell them wrap it up. Right. Not boys will be boys and women need to be saints. That day is over. That day is done. But yeah, it's real. We got to have these conversations in our community. We have to because black family and black parenthood is sacred. We are sacred people. We are spiritual people, and it is sacred when man, woman, when person and person create a child. That's sacred. That's a blessed act that they have for so long tried to bastardize, tried to prevent, tried to extinguish, and so we have got to protect our rights to have children and to create black families. I know I'm going a little deeper, but it really is insidious on how they attack the black family and how they make us believe that we just don't have the ability to create life when we do. And so we got to take that back into our own hands. We have to protect that. The community has to protect it at all costs.
Absolutely.
Brothers, you got to protect the women you're dropping your seed in. I don't understand. For the life of me, I don't understand how a woman can be carrying a child and go through hell in the 9 months. That time is sacred. From the minute she pee on the stick and find out she's pregnant to the minute she had that child, she is forming life.
A person, a whole.
All these veins and bones you got in your body, your mama formed that. She made it. She formed it in her womb.
That's why.
Why would you put somebody through undeserving stress during that time? If you can't do right by her, leave her ass completely alone. But don't F with her when she's creating life. And that is a sacred time.
And that new life is absorbing all that
energy. So every headache you give her while she's pregnant, every effed up thing that happened, come on. That's fertile ground. That's sacred ground. Yep. That life is forming in. We got to do better. As a community, we got to do better with that. But yeah, we have to have these conversations with each other. Women have to talk about it. I have a group of friends. None of us have children. We are all in our mid-30s. Some of us late 30s. None of us have children. None of us sit around and have any conversations about fertility issues. We may one-on-one have a sister-girl conversation when we're feeling safe enough to be vulnerable one-on-one. But as a collective, ain't none of us hey, what's up, sis? Are you good? Are you good?
Yeah.
Let me pray over your womb. Let me pray over so that you're fruitful and you can multiply. You know what I'm saying? We've got to break that. We've got to break that silence because that silence is killing us.
Girl, that's a word. I don't even got nothing else to add. That's a word. So moving on to, I know there's another part of your journey.
Yes. That
you are exploring. And so I know we've talked about it, and you've mentioned that you are looking into adoption as a form of getting that motherhood that you know that you are destined for. Yes. So please talk about that, because I don't know much about the process. I've heard, usually when I hear about adoption, it's matter of fact, you don't even hear somebody mention it. You just, baby shows up. I adopted a child. You're like, oh, right. Okay.
Right.
So please talk about that journey.
Thank
and
you. I'm excited. I'm looking for a baby, y'all. I prayed on it. It hit me when spirit talks to you, spirit just talks to you sometimes. And so it just kept coming up. I kept hearing, you should adopt. And I've always been open to considering adoption. I think it's a beautiful gift to be able to have a child and give a child a home and give a child just love because you choose to. And so I've always been open to adoption. And then it just kept coming up more and more. It came up in my dream. It came up when I was awake and daydreaming. And so, you know, I'm a person who believes in spiritual confirmation. So I got a couple of readings on it, and the readings were like, no, adopt and do it now. Not don't wait, do it now. And that was the message that I got from God and from my ancestors. And so I just made it in my mind that I'm going to adopt a child. I'm a single woman. I don't have a partner in it right now, but a partner is coming. I feel it. Where you at, boo? Hey, boo.
I know, you
he might be watching. You watch it. I love you. I love that
relationship you in, you should
leave her. You know you don't like her. She
you know in your spirit it ain't working.
She don't have no what? I'm sorry. No, leave her ass and come find your forever boo. Sidebar. But yes, so you know, I'm a single woman, and I was like, I'm gonna adopt. So I started to do my research, because that's where you got to start. You got to start with research. And I had no idea about adoption. I don't know anybody in my immediate family who is adopted. You know, unless they tell you that they're adopted, I don't really know people who are adopted or who went through the process. So I was starting from scratch. So I went, called several agencies, and did phone interviews, phone screenings, filled out some applications, and just Google was my best friend. And I realized that adoption is a big business, like everything else in America. So you can literally buy a baby for about $50,000, because that's what I've been quoted from about 4 or 5 agencies, between $45,000 and $55,000 for their entire service, and that is from start to finish. The process looks similar with all agencies. You have to do a home study. It's the first step. They come, they check you out, they do a series of interviews, they check out your home, see how you're living. They might interview some of your loved ones, ask you all about your business, get all up in your business, because they want to know that you're not crazy because you want somebody's child. And then after you do a home study, you kind of make like I would call it like a dating profile, like a profile that you put online for birth mothers to find you to say, yeah, this looks like the person I want to give my baby to. Then once there's a match, God willing, a birth mother wants to give you their child and you want to receive the child, then you go through the placement process where you actually get the baby. The baby is placed with you, but it's not your child yet. And you go through the placement process. You go to court. It's all legalities to it. You have to go to court, do all of that. The birth parents sign over their rights, and then depending on the state, it's between 30 and 45 days of waiting to say that giving the birth parents a grace period to say, I changed my mind. If they change their mind within those 30 days, they can take their child back, and the adoption falls through. And all of your money falls through.
Okay.
You don't get your money back. You don't get that $50,000 back. And so that's the traditional adoption agency route. If I were to go with an agency, that's the option. That's the adoption agency route. Then there are adoption attorneys, where say I knew somebody who had a child and they wanted to give me their child. I wouldn't have to go through an agency. I'd go directly to an adoption attorney to handle all the legality and all the paperwork that I had to go to the court, and I do it that way. Things that are non-existent in America now are like orphanage. They don't have that anymore. It's social service now. So it's foster care. If a child is abandoned, if a child is orphaned, they go directly into foster care. And so foster care is another option, and it's the most affordable. Actually, you don't pay in foster care. They pay you.
It's a longer process.
It's a longer process. It's a little bit more heartbreaking. Most of those children have a lot more trauma and medical issue, trauma. And you're not usually guaranteed a baby. And I want out the womb infant. That's my preference. I want a baby. So I'm considering foster care. I actually have a meeting on Thursday with the foster care agency. An introductory orientation meeting. So foster care is on the table. But I'm still in my research phase. I haven't solidified an agency that I want to go with. I don't have 46 to 50 grand sitting around. And I received through prayer and through readings and through confirmation that I won't have to spend $50,000 for a baby. That there is a child that is waiting for me, that is mine, and that will come to me in need, and I will be in the position to receive that child. So right now I'm waiting. It's a waiting game. I'm doing my research. I'm looking, even considering into international, and there are a whole lot of legalities and stuff with that. But I'm opening my heart and my mind, and manifesting and setting intentions for having this baby come to me through adoption. I shared it in my network. I shared it with you. I shared it with friends and family, and there was a reason for that, because people know people
who know people
who know people. And so I'm saying it on this podcast right now. You might not know me, but I'm a great person, and I'll be a great mama.
She is.
If you know somebody who is considering giving their child up for adoption, consider Ayanna, and T will tag all my information.
Yes.
Consider me. I'm looking for a baby, and so if somebody is struggling with what they want to do and making a decision that they want to give their child up because that's the best decision for them, consider me. And sometimes that's the way you'll find your baby. So I'm putting it in God's hands, and I know that eventually I'll have a beautiful baby to welcome into my heart and into my home. And I choose this path because this is just what God has placed on my heart. I'm being obedient. I heard it. I received it. I got a reading on it. It was confirmed. So I'm just being obedient to what God has decided that this is what I should be doing right now. And that's where I'm at.
From your lips to God's ears.
There we go. Come on, baby. Your mama's waiting on you.
Trusting it. And I think that's the part of... I think this is a part of the journey that people don't often think about or consider in a real way, right? Because I love what you said earlier, that your divine wanting journey or right to motherhood is a separate entity, right? And this is why that part is not necessarily connected to a partner and a mate. Yes. Or to a mate. So there's motherhood, there's parenthood, right? There's before motherhood, there's your own personal fertility and reproductive health, right? And I think that we all kind of, and pregnancy, and I think we all kind of just mingle and gel it together, and they're not the same things. And I think that this is why I wanted to talk to you, because I feel like you're really clear about your journey, your path, and distinguishing what is and what isn't and what's for you. And I think a lot of people... And I just got there. I'm going to be honest. I just got there. Recently, just got to the place where I could really be assured in that and comfortable in knowing that me being a mother is not synonymous to me being in love and me being a partner to a man. Yes, I want that traditional family. I want it. You know, I'm not going to sit here in front and say I don't want a father for my children and I don't want a partner in parenting my children. However, I'm at a place where I know that I can have one and not have the other right now, or I can get the other and not have that piece, and that doesn't mean that the partnership is lacking because we don't have children. My fertility and my path to motherhood was not intertwined with me being a partner and being a wife or being someone's woman. Like, I can have one or the other, or I can have both, and I will. Eventually I'll have both, but I don't have to wait for one in order to pursue another. And so I'm readying myself for motherhood, and I'm readying myself to be a parent outside of being someone's woman. I know both are going to come, and it's going to be in God's time. And if God decides that the man comes before the baby comes, thank you, God. If God decides that the baby comes before the man comes, thank you, God, there too. But it's not, you don't have to have one before the other. It's not the horse before the cart type of thing. Right. And I just recently, literally, like, it maybe in the past year or so, got to that place of understanding, because I was there like, well, I ain't got no man to have no baby with, so stop asking me when I'm gonna have a baby. When I find me a man that's worth me having a baby with, then I'll have a baby. And I used to say that, and it would feel ridiculous that I would say it, but I would say it because that's what I was conditioned to say. Like, that's what society made me believe. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes you with the baby carriage. Like, those are nursery rhymes, but that's conditioning. We condition little girls and little boys to think that that's the way that it has to be done. And who said that you can't take an active step in becoming a parent and do it for yourself? Like, if I wanted to go to the sperm bank and just get somebody's sperm and have a baby, that's my right. That's my vagina, my right. That's my choice. If I want to adopt, that's also my right and my choice. If I want to do surrogate, that's also my right and my choice. Whatever you choose for your path is between you and God. That's the contract you're making with God. And you don't owe any explanation to anybody. So I'm going to be a mama.
regardless of whether or not I got a man to do it with. That's it.
That's right. And I pray. I'm gonna continue sending my prayers.
Thank you so much.
For you to
Thank
accomplish
you.
that.
I receive it.
So to end off the episode, what do you feel throughout your whole journey? What do you wish you knew?
I wish I knew then. What I know now is that it wasn't my fault, and that nothing is wrong with you. I wish that I had that assurity. I wish that I had that resounding understanding that nothing is wrong with you, and that it's not your fault. I know that now. I didn't know that then, and so I took a lot of emotional beating down on myself and pain. Because I didn't know that and I didn't understand that it's not your fault. And so I wish then that the 25-year-old in me understood that and then had somebody to remind me of that when I had lost sight of that. But, God reminded me. God lifted me up, picked me up, dusted me off, and was like, you ain't got to cry no more. So
Okay, let's talk about it.
I'm glad, and I thank God.
Yeah, I'm going to have to... You said it right there. Just now, I guess I'm in a different stage of my journey, but yeah, I do echo what you said of like that feeling of something's wrong with me, right? And there's nothing wrong with me, right? This is just me. I am uniquely myself, and this is what my story is. And I think that's what I would share with others is that don't think anything is wrong with you, but also know you have the power to answer those questions you have lingering in your head.
Absolutely.
That was also the thing for me. I had all these questions, but I was also too afraid. And I'm like, I don't know. Go and find out. There's power in knowledge.
That's it.
And once you got it, you can navigate the rest of your life how you want it.
That's it. And timing is key. I wrote this quote on my arm. I have this as a tattoo. It was a Facebook. I got this off of Facebook. There was a parable of a dog and an elephant. And the dog had a litter of puppies, and the elephant was pregnant. And if you know anything about the elephant is pregnant for 2 years. God bless elephants. And the dog had their litter and was like, "Oh, you still pregnant?" I had another litter, and I had another litter. So the dog had about 3 sets of puppies and the elephant was still pregnant with their one child. And the dog was like, "Well, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm out here pushing these puppies out, and you just dragging your feet." And the elephant said, when you give birth and you add what you add into the world. But when I give birth, I'm creating something that you're not creating here. I'm creating a level of greatness in my womb that you're not creating. Basically, like any dog can have a puppy, but a dog can't make an elephant. And this is what it takes to make an elephant. It takes time. I have to wait. This is my calling, and I have to sit in this. And there was a quote at the end of it, and I have it as a tat. It's on my arm. And it says, "My time is coming, and when it hits the surface of the earth, people shall yield in admiration." And I have this on my arm as a reminder that everything is in due timing. Everything is in divine timing. And when I have that baby, Lord, listen, the floodgates going to open, the sun going to shine differently, the birds going to chirp, the trees going to rumble.
Oh, yes.
My child's going to come here and shake up the world some way, somehow. I know I'm creating greatness. And so creating greatness takes time.
Yes.
And I want to leave y'all with that. Everything is in divine timing. You can't do God's job. Stop trying to do God's job by worrying about it. Stop trying to do God's job by imposing your free will, and just let him work. And he will blow your mind every single time. That's it. That's my piece.
Girl, and with that, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, boo. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and like us on Instagram at the Oasis Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, direct message us on Instagram or email us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. Again, that's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com.